Hello, I am Brenda Ringwood, and I am your host for the Becoming the Best You TV talk show. This isn't any ordinary TV talk show. It is a show about becoming the best version of yourself. The change is possible if you really want it. We share stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, sharing encouragement, hope, and perseverance of overcoming from people from all walks of life who are doing wonderful things. It is our hope that the things they have struggled to overcome will encourage you to step up and do the things that you want to do in life. To step out and be heard. Don't let your past stop you. Don't let fear and doubt and what others say get in the way of your happiness. Stay tuned as we share amazing stories in hopes that your dreams will unfold. And remember to always put your crown on. Wear that crown, because only you rule your kingdom. Hello, it's Bren and Izzy, and we have Regina, the stepologist, with us. Actually, she's more than just the stepologist, but we're going to get into that. In Topeka, Kansas today, doing another episode of BTBY, which means becoming the best version of yourself. How do you do that? What does that look like? Which is why we bring you stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Today, Regina's going to talk about her humble beginnings, and then we're going to ask her some questions. You're going to be amazed at why she is the stepologist. Regina, talk about your birth.
So first off, I am Regina Platt, known as Dr. Regina Platt, stepologist, world changer, game changer,
I told you
civic,
she was more than that.
engagement person, mother, mentor, advocate, activist. So I have a whole lot of names, right?
And grandmother.
A whole lot of names. I forgot the grandma. That's the best job of all these jobs, right? So let me tell you a little bit. Let's go back, right? And so they talk about ordinary people, right, doing extraordinary things. I am very humbled to be here with you both, sharing this space. One of the things I want to say to you is I am a miracle, right? I need you to open your mouth in a space right where you are right now today and say, I am a miracle. Why are you the miracle? Because out of trillions of releases that were released into your mom, you fought to be here, right? You chose that this would be your destiny from the beginning. So let's talk about mine. Regina Ann Henry had been sick since the beginning of her entrance into the earth realm, but there was something about the ideal of having me, right? And I don't even know if she thought it was going to be me, but I am that person, right? But she knew she was dying. My mother had been sick her whole entire life. In her 20s, mom passes on, but before she passes on, she gives birth to me, right? So I'm really big on choice at this point in my life. I tell people, allow people to make choices because there's power in the choice, right? She knew she was exiting the earth realm. She knew that she had served. She knew she had did all that she could do. But just imagine if someone told her she had to make that decision. That's what she had to do. Would there have been the same amount of power? Would there have been the same amount of substance? So she chose to not only birth me, but name me Regina, right? Which means queen. So she named me after her. And so around 18 months old, mom passes away. My father is still to this day dealing with the trauma of grieving, right? Because we tell men to man up, right? Instead of allowing them to man down, right? Push the man down button and say, hear me, see me, receive me. And so there has been a lineage of just a baggage of him not being able to grieve being carried with me. Currently, my father is incarcerated. And that's a big hit, right? It's a big hit because it came at a time I was running for city council. It's a big hit because it came from a time during a time that my brother had just been shot and killed. It's a big hit because it came during a period of time where the family was already divided, right? And I needed that support. They needed that support, but now we are still divided. And so let's go back as we talk about my journey. We talk about sexual abuse. We talk about mental, physical abuse. We talk about a journey of feeling like I wasn't enough. We talk about a journey of not only through the family lineage being broken and hurt, but we talk about through community lenses being broken and hurt, and through our national governmental standards, of structural and institutional standards.
Sounds like everything.
Brokenness and hurt. And so when you talk about the word resilience and we talk about ACE scores, adverse childhood experiences, the adverse childhood experiences, their data would say that I would be dead, addicted to drugs, mental illnesses. They have a list, a plethora of things that people with my ACE score would have, right? But glory be to God. I don't know if you all say glory be to God, but I do.
You can talk about God on this show.
I'm still here, right? I'm a survivor. When we talk about surviving, we talk about living past. We talk about moving forward. When we talk about surviving, we talk about a shift of movement, right? We talk about on purpose. So one of the things that helped me, that's why I'm the stepologist, because I chose my steps and not to conquer everything, right? And so some people are looking, you're at a state in your life where you want to do better, you want your life to change, you want different opportunities, but you're trying to digest the whole burger. You're trying to digest the whole pizza. You're trying to digest the whole drink. But the only thing you're supposed to be doing at this period of time is just getting a taste of it, taking a step within it, right? Connecting to the right people, that's a step, right? And so you don't just automatically get good people in your life. You have to be vulnerable to receive them. And so I can talk about a lot, but y'all gonna have to go on and journey with me because y'all know Regina know how to talk.
Well, not only does Regina do the stepologist thing, she has run for city council, as you heard her say, because she's very involved in her community. Talk to us about your community and why you do what you do.
So right now I live in a community where here in Topeka, Kansas, 66604 zip code is infant mortality rate is the second in the state. Nationally, we have twice the number of infant mortality deaths within our country. Not only that, there's a 12-year number, like African American black bodied men die 12 years earlier than their white counterparts. That's another hit, right? When you look at the structure of the community, right, with a structure of between 10 and 11% African American, we look at the mass incarceration rate, we look at the poverty rate, we look at that Topeka is a food desert. If you all don't know what a food desert is, that means the housing are more than a mile away from having access to stores, fresh fruits and vegetables at affordable prices, not just any price. And so Topeka has a legacy of doing great things. People nationally know about Brown versus Board of Education. People nationally know about these things, but people do not know that even with Brown versus Board of Education, there was a lack of togetherness. People do not know that there were businesses that ranged all over the city where Black communities owned and were upheld that have shut down or they were shunned out of those communities. People do not know about the redlining that has taken place within this city. So you know about some things. And when we talk about Bloody Kansas, you know about Brown doing the fight and coming through here and doing those things. But you don't know that Blacks were still not treated wholeheartedly like they belonged here and they were valued here. You do not hear about the number of women who tell their stories about getting medical care during pregnancy and not feeling like they're being seen in the way they need to be seen. I have this story where a couple of years ago, I go to the doctor, my appendix are close to bursting. I don't realize that, right? I just realized my stomach is hurting. I may need to poop or something. You know, I got all kind of little things going on. And so I'm just like, I'm fighting it through. I've showed up to work. I'm working in a correctional facility at the school den. I'm there. I'm sitting there. And I've been so accustomed to being the strong Black woman. I am not the strong Black woman. I am a beautiful Black woman.
That's right.
Right? I don't have to be the strong Black woman. I'm not supposed to believe that I got to be the strong Black woman. I'm only supposed to be me. And so as I'm there and I'm in that place and I'm hurting, I mean, I was hurting before I went to work. I was hurting while I was at work. It was to the point where I kept going and hiding. There is no reason that a woman or a man should have to go hide when they're paid. Right. They should be able to say, help me, right? And people will say, well, that's their pride. That's not pride. That was teaching. That was something that was communicated to them that they must be. So as I'm there, I'm in this space. I go to my the principal's office and I lay down on Backman's floor, literally. And he comes in, he's a white body male, probably 6'4". He's like, oh my God, somebody get her out of here. She's on my floor. We gonna need some help. He quickly runs for help, right? So, I mean, if you gotta be vulnerable to get help, I need you to be vulnerable in this season. And so I lay down on the floor. They get somebody. He needs me. He wants me to go home. He's like, I need you to go home. I don't know.
Get up out of
Let's
here.
get you to the doctor, get you home. I don't know. He literally, I'm hurting so bad, someone drives me home and he drives my car, right? And so I get home again as a single mom and I perform. The kids come home. I make sure they have dinner. I make sure they bathe. I make sure they're prepared for school. And it's like, I was at that point where it was like, I can't do this no more. I literally go take a shower and put on the least amount of clothes necessary to walk into public. So that means the outer layer. Go into the hospital and I'm sitting there 4 hours. We're going on 5 hours.
And that's a dangerous thing with that appendix.
Nobody's seen me other than to check me in. Finally, I walk up to the desk and I say, if I'm gonna die, I will die at home. Bye. And they like, hold on. So what they were seeing was this woman at the time who muscular built, very healthy looking, nothing out of order. I'm not screaming. I'm not crying. I'm not falling around. Why are you here? I'm telling them I'm having abdominal pain. Nobody's seeing me. And they see me as a drug addict. They see me as somebody trying to come get a pill. They don't see me as this person who's really there because she's hurting and she's at her bottoms end and doesn't know how. When they get me back into the room, because they were easy to see me then after I was going to go home, they was like, oh, our money's leaving. Let's get her. They get me back in the room. White bodied male comes in. He's standing over me like he's the biggest dude they could get. Top-notch security. He's standing over me. And he's just looking at me like I'm nothing. And I'm like, what are y'all going to do? They quickly try to hit me with morphine. First off, I don't do any type of thing for anything. So they hit me with morphine. I'm falling off the chair. I'm scared out of my wits because nobody else is there with me. They take me back. We do the scans. They find out that they need to do surgery like right then. He goes, you need to call somebody because you could die doing this surgery. And that's when it really kicked into me, like, I'm not going to do this and go home. I was like, come on, hit me. I'm going to be home in a minute. The kids will be up. No, I had to call and tell my father, Dad, I'm about to go into surgery. They say my appendix was close to busting. My kids are screaming. My parents get them. But I'm not the only Black woman that's had to go through that. Nor a woman who comes from lower income neighborhoods that's been through a struggle, that's already had her body violated, that's already been at the point where she felt like nobody cared. And so I say to you in Topeka right now, it's at a point in time where we've just had a young man shot and killed at the end of June. And that was Christopher Kelly, I'll say his name. And he was killed by the police officers. He was in crisis. He was stabbing himself. And he was killed. They said he was too far away to taser, but he was just close enough to shoot, right? And they didn't say the just close enough to shoot part, but the action said it. And the other factor is when I think about my brother's death in 2020, that was my baby brother. I was sister mom. And so you have baby brother shot, and you have the man I thought I was going to marry, Mark Edwards, who was shot the same time my brother killed him. Again, we're tying back into mental illness. Not only we tying into mental illness, we tying into the mass incarceration rates. And his story was he fell off the bed at a very young age, trauma, brain trauma from that state, roused into not getting the wraparound care that was needed. And so in school, they pass him through. They don't do the work that is needed to make sure he's being seen. My parents are not supported on the journey. As a grown man with 5 kids, he's dead. It took them hours to find him. There was a shooting. They surveyed the area. They got Mark, took Mark to the hospital to be seen. Mark dies in the hospital. His mother barely got there in time to see her son because they did not notify her. Zenny dies in someone's yard by the trash can. Situation again, as I talk about complacencies, I'll talk about historical trauma, I'll talk about pains. We're not identifying and doing the work ahead of time. We're waiting until after, and then we're blaming the families, we're blaming the communities. But is our system set up to help those withstand? Is our system set up to help those being touched by mass incarceration? Are we really correcting, right? Because we say this word correct. And correct, you can't correct something you don't understand or people you can't relate to. So you set up a system that isolates them. You set up a system that causes more harm to them. You set up a system that shuns them and sets them apart from the rest of the community, and you expect that's healing work.
Mm-hmm. And
and
you
I'm
also
sick.
wonder why.
And I'm sick and
changed.
I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of it as a whole. So I am a racial justice advocacy coordinator for YWCA Northeast Kansas. That is my day job. And so my job is to stand up for those who have been silenced and can't stand up for themselves. But remember, I was doing that before I started the job.
I think you've always been doing that as long as I've known you.
Yeah, I think
somebody needs to, because sometimes people, it's not that they don't want to, they don't know how.
I was my 11th grade year of high school. I was picketing down at Shining County Jailhouse when they were thinking about building the juvenile place. So I've always had this little piece in me. I think in elementary school, I called all the girls in. A boy was physically attacking young girls, sexually attacking us. And I remember the gym teacher that day. Sometimes I can be a little mean when I speak, but the gym teacher that day, the young man kept grabbing onto my body parts. And I gave him 1-2, you know what the 1-2 is. You know, I like landed him. And the gym teacher was like, Vassar! He called my name out like, you know, he was going to do something. No, you're not going to do something. This young man has been walking through here grabbing on body parts. And on today, he grabbed the wrong one. And so I'm going to just finish him. Like Mortal Kombat. You know, I'm in that time frame when Mortal Kombat was out.
Yes.
So he sent me out. I went to the principal. And I told the principal everything the man had been saying. And I told him how he has inadequate staff that are not protecting the young females. And the principal was like, oh, hell. Who do I have here? But
I have a tiger in this chair.
He knew I wasn't going to sit down. So with me saying all that, when you think about queen, most often people think about queen as someone that sits in a chair and or sits around and she looks cute. She's well put together. Everyone loves her. She smells really nice. Da 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 da. All those falsified things. The queen is a servant to the community.
That's right.
The queen is a servant to the family.
And what a great name you have, because that is the life you live.
Yeah, she is only queen because of the substance that is within her that pours out of her. And so when I realized all those things about queen, and I realized they killed a queen over in Europe because she was taking all the money and she was egotistical. Look that up. And she was spending everything. They whacked her. She needed it. No, she didn't need it. I'm sorry. She didn't need it. But she was misusing the peoples for her selfish reason, and she needed to be removed because she was not queen. She was not there to honor the crown.
Right. She wasn't leading the people in the right way.
So sometimes my crown, when I was in the streets, my crown was a little sideways. You know, it was a little sideways on some days. But then, you know, in this time, in this season, someone asked me the other day, are you the good witch or the bad witch? I said, it depends on the day, right? So you good queen or the bad queen? It depends on the day, you know, because I go back and I reevaluate who I am.
And that is exactly what the show is about, reevaluating who you are and moving forward from it, not staying stuck in it. What advice can you give? So I've heard, you know, you lost your mother at a young age. I've heard that now your father, who did raise you, I'm assuming he was remarried and you had a stepmother, and you're very thankful for that. But now he's incarcerated. You had a brother get killed. You had community members get killed. You've been a single mother. You've been sexually abused, mentally abused. How in the world did you walk out of that to now fight for that so it doesn't happen to others?
For me, I would say, but God. but God. There's never been a point in my life where it was like, what's next? It was not what's next, right? Because I know he takes me through steps. And I always was able to go back, but God, like God, what's next for me, right? And some people are looking for him or waiting for him to say these specific things, but he speaks through relationships, right? He speaks through you stepping out. And so he gives you passion for a reason. He gives you that pain for a reason, right? And so when you're feeling these things are intended to spark you to another level. And so a young person hurting for me sparks me to another level. Having this testimony that I'm able to share with other people, there was a time that I was ashamed about it. There was a time that I stayed in a marriage and did not want to leave the marriage because I didn't want that shame connected to me. I didn't want to be known as the woman who was raising her kids by herself. I didn't want to be broke, right? Because in marriage, I don't know about y'all, but in my marriage, I wasn't broke, baby. I was not broke. And that's funny, I say it like that, but there's privileges with marriage.
There is.
And some people don't realize that. And when I walked into a ministry, people were like, hi, they were really nice. And then when I got divorced and I walked into a ministry, people was like, where your husband?
You were just supposed to have one. Yeah.
You got all these kids. I'm like, 3 kids, 1, 2, 3. Where your husband? How you live? How you survive? Like all those daunting questions again that are shaming to that woman who is stepping forward, who's reclaiming her life.
Instead of that, you just did that. You stepped forward, you reclaimed it. You are raising those kids, you are employed, and you are doing your part.
So I'll say you, but God. And then God gave me the realization that, Regina, you're not going to be able to do this all, but you can conquer it in steps. You are good enough, Regina. You are worthy enough, Regina. You're beautiful just the way you are, Regina. I get that he said he needed a skinny woman. I get that he said that you gained too much weight. I get that he said that you wanted too much. I get all these things, Regina. I hear all these things that you heard. I hear all these things that you don't fit in. But God, right? You fit in just the way I need you to fit in. I birthed you just the way you need to be birthed at the timing that you need to be birthed.
Because he doesn't make mistakes.
Right? Because to be born after Vietnam War, to be born right before they declared the war on drugs, to be born right before, right? We have all this brokenness in communities. It's a time frame where they're building up more lower income housing. It's a time where women were being hurt really badly. Regina, you're here just for the reason to empower them, right? They're more than enough. You can take the first step. Not only can you take the first step, you can finish it, right? And so when we talk about that, but God, I'm on a city council run in 2021. I know nothing about government, right? I know nothing about politics at all. I'm out there like the words get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? I'm out there in the streets, right? And when I say I'm out there in the streets,
I can testify to it. She was out there.
I say I'm out there in the streets. I'm knocking doors, right? I'm going in areas where meth addiction is at. I'm going in areas where killings and happened at. I'm at a door knocking on the door. The man said, "Don't go down there to that door." That woman just got shot the other day. I'm like, "Oh, well, thank you." Well, thank you. My feet hurting, my body hurting, my mind hurting. And as I'm out there, I'm just learning, like, Regina, I brought you to a mission. I need you to see these. They haven't had nobody knock on their door in so long. They're talking about people running for council and people running for legislation and people taking these big positions and saying that they're representing the people, and they've never been out to see the people. They don't know the people. They don't identify with them. They haven't held them close. And you're here and I'm at doors and people are like, can you pray for me? Right? That ain't part of the Lakewood City Council. Can you pray for me? Can you just sit here with me and listen to me?
They saw Regina, they didn't see the person running for office.
Like, I'm sitting there with people and I'm playing with kids and I'm talking to men who don't even have the right to vote in this country because they have felonies, and I'm talking to them about the legacy that they can share with their children and their children's children. And just because you can't, don't mean you can't train them to be, right? And so those conversations, and then to have an ex-officer who was standing like, he's standing over me. It's so funny because I'm a midget, right? And so he's standing there, Baldwin, probably 6'7", standing over me. And he says, can I go with you? Right? This is a white body male who told me he was not raised in the situation, does not really understand it. And he's hitting the streets with me, right?
Wow.
And as he's hitting the streets with me, he gets, they're like, Regina, why you bring him in the neighborhood? Was you scared or something? I'm like, and people say, stay professional as you're speaking, and you need to meet people where they are. So the hood sometimes have to come on out, right? And so I'm talking to someone and I'm like, you know what it do. Like I had to change the language. The man's, and I'm like, I don't need no security, bro. And and I got two grown men who are looking at me like, we know you ain't scared, but I said, so why you ask the question? And they're like, and so remember those things about you when you were a kid, you don't want people to know now. But there's a people that seen you and to be greater than you seen you, right? And so they go, you always had a word for us. Even when we was all in the streets, you had a word for us. So we can believe when you say this is going to happen. I'm going, all right, I thought I got a little too hood for a minute. Let's put it up. But no.
It was relatable.
It was right.
Yes.
And what you can't relate to, you can't help.
That's right.
You can't connect with. And so some of us have gotten so high that we put ourselves on a pedestal and we forgot that the people need people. They need real, authentic people. Are you authentic?
Mm-hmm.
Are you being real, right? You may have the money, but are you sharing your truths with the world? Or are you just boasting in what you've gained? Because remember, everything that you gain will go away. I had the house, right? I had the nice cars, right? I was going to the beautician every week. I was looking real, real pretty. You know what I'm saying? I had those things. And God took all of that away from me. He took it all away from me so that I can become me. Because in that place, I was not me. In that place, I had to be what they needed me to be. And so it's a time when I show up in spaces now, when I show up and I speak on stages, I don't show up and speak as this hidden person or this pretend person. I bring me to the stage. If I feel like singing while I'm on the stage with you, I'm going to sing. If I want to do poetry, I'm going to do poetry. If I want to make you laugh, do comedy while we on stage, we have a comedy moment, right? But I promise you, every time I come, because I come as me, you'll be blessed. I promise you, every time I come, if I come as me, you're going to be enlightened. You're going to see something within yourself you didn't see before you came in contact with me. And so that's part of the journey.
It is.
Bring you, Regina.
And I always ask for words of wisdom, but I think she already gave them to you.
Yes. Well, Regina, we're so grateful that you broke all those many statistics. You chose, because it was all a decision. You chose to step forward and to keep stepping forward. I'm thanking you for Topeka, Kansas, for the community. I'm thanking you for every time that I've heard you get on stage and speak, because you've touched me and people that I know. And I know that we're just starting. You're just starting. She's going to help you step up, step out of any challenge that you're facing. So thank you for what you're doing. Get in contact if you want to know how you can do more in your community. Regina would love to help you out. So
I tell you to change your mindset, change your actions.
you could change your lives.
Right. Thanks for watching, guys.